Okay, so kind of jumping back in, and I was saying if what JonBenét Ramsey is saying, well, not JonBenét, but if John Ramsey is saying is to be believed, um, he came in through the window. He said in the summer he came in through the window, and if he did that, he would have had to move that gate. So that, and then he broke the window and went upstairs, according to what he said. This is what he said. And if that's the case, and that window is not fixed, then that means that metal gate, nobody heard anything metal clanging. Because if that's to be believed, first of all, that suitcase was already down there. That's number one. Number two, if that's the train room and y'all play down there all the time, and you got a window broken, I mean, that neighborhood must have been really safe. That you have a window broken that you're not worried about getting fixed, and you break the window, unless because where would you take the body unless that was the staging, unless you didn't break the window in the summer, unless as part of the staging you broke the window and put that suitcase there. Where was that suitcase before? You know what I mean? That's kind of weird. Where would they have found that suitcase unless that suitcase is already down there? I don't see any other suitcases down here. I don't see any other travel stuff down here. There's like a random suitcase that just randomly in front of the window. They just randomly found a suitcase, and it's like, hey, you know, why would that suitcase, of all the things, why would that suitcase be down there? This is a toy room. And if John snuck in, or if he had to get in through this window, then that means that he pulled that, and he never fixed this window. Then that means he pulled down that metal part and never fixed it, unless, and which, because if you scope the place out, like I was saying, if you scope the place out and you're coming back and you know what it is, then either you've left that off as a criminal, you've left that off so that you don't have to deal with that next time. You've probably left it slightly, perched, or not perched, but you've left like kind of slightly let back to where not to where it's open too much, but to where you can just slide down and you don't have to have it, you don't have to move it, but so that people don't notice that it's open. You probably left it cracked just a little bit, and so you can just slide down and then go through the window and be good. Because we're talking about somebody who is very skilled at what they do, and getting in this house and taking your daughter downstairs is what we're talking about. But what could have also been the case is that in reverse, the scream could have happened, and John panicked. If we're going with Dr. Weck's theory, the scream happened, John panicked, ran over here, broke the window, and then jumped up and moved that thing, and that would be the reason somebody heard the loud bang. But I'm wondering, does that window really open like that? Because, does that window really open like that? Because you hit the top part right there.
Up those stairs, done all the damage, and perhaps come back, stepped on the suitcase and escaped through this window, closing the screen.
That suitcase sitting right there, the suitcase should be closer to the, that's what I'm saying. There's no other. Okay, there's a suitcase up there. That makes sense. But that suitcase, if he jumped down and he was in a hurry to get out of the house because there was a scream, that would be the reason why the unaliver ran. That would be why he ran so fast, because there was a scream and he would run. But why would he grab a suitcase? Because he would have to grab the suitcase going out. That would be an afterthought. But why would he have the suitcase so far back from the window and catty corner like that? Because if he pushed back with force, then that would mean that suitcase would be on the ground laying flat. not like it is, not standing catty corner. So somebody did a rush job to try to put that suitcase there to make it look like somebody used that suitcase. Because if you were going to use that suitcase should be sort of like almost flush in front, because if they try to do it any other way, that they're going to push back and that suitcase is going to fall and they're not going to be able to get out anyway. So it's really weird. I don't think that doesn't make sense.
Right behind them. So John, you've worked in law enforcement for 40 years. How often does the intruder enter and exit a home in the same location?
Far and away the majority of cases, whenever there's a burglary, the suspect's comfortable and knows the way that they entered the crime scene, the residence or business, and that's almost without exception their preferred method of exit.
And walk me through this whole argument about the lack of tracks in the snow. I've seen pictures of the front of the houses. There's about an inch of snow there. You'd think you'd have steps in that snow.
Right, Dr. Oz, and this has been one of the misperceptions from the very beginning, and it's one thing that drove my former homicide partner, Lieutenant, crazy, is, people would just look at the front of the house, with the snow and the candy canes and all of that. But Lou said right from the beginning, when you go around the back of the house where that window was broken and it was clearly used to enter that home and could be used, so there was no snow. And the picture you're showing right now shows how the back of the house, where it was more sunny or whatever, there was no snow there to leave any footprints.
It makes sense now that I see this. Great. I'll come back to that in a second. Cindy, how could an intruder gotten into the house, gone up the stairs, gotten JonBenét from the second floor without waking her parents?
Well, my dad thought that he was, first of all, that he had been there while the Ramseys were gone that evening. So he had plenty of time just to kind of look around and see where he wanted to hide. My dad's theory was that the intruder possibly was in the guest bedroom, and when everybody went to sleep, he went into JonBenét's room, and possibly even at that point sunburned her. We don't know. But he was able to restrain her, and my dad believes then take her down into the basement in an attempt to get her out that window.
So let me just go back to this issue of where their stun gun was used. Some have suggested that the marks on JonBenét's body, I'm going to show them to you now, were caused by the ends of the model train tracks found in the basement. They're over here. That I mentioned them very briefly before. They're sort of on the way anywhere you go in that basement. So and it's true that train tracks do have little sharp edges on them. So John, what have you uncovered about that possibility?
Our team's done some extensive analysis with the train tracks, and Lou did a lot of work on the stun gun. And what you'll be able to tell from the stun gun is it left two triangular shaped marks or wounds on the victim's body, what we're seeing here, both on her back and on the cheek. And what we've been able to determine is the distance between those burns is 3.5 centimeters, which is consistent with an O-gauge model train track. However, you can see from this photo, those train tracks the ends of them are circular. They couldn't leave a rectangular mark. And that's why we're confident that the train tracks were not used to leave these marks on the body.
In fact, those marks look almost rectangular, square, right? So they're more consistent with a stun gun because that's what the tip of a stun gun probe looks like. So once JonBenét was brought down to the basement, I'm gonna go back down to this exit space. There's a suitcase, right, that's found by the window. It becomes even more significant. Yes, it's possible they may have stepped out of the house using that suitcase. But Sydney, what did your dad find in the suitcase?
There was a duvet and a sham that was found in the suitcase. And they found that there were fibers from the duvet and sham on JonBenét's body, on her shirt, on the front and back of her shirt, on her wrist ligatures, in her area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I could see them getting out on that one because it's a little bit more perpendicular.
And in the body bag. That led him to believe that JonBenét had been put in that suitcase possibly to get her out of that window, and that's how they were going to do it.
But that suitcase wouldn't fit through the window, which is intriguing because it's possible the kidnapper, that initially started as a kidnapping, was trying to put the child in a suitcase, couldn't get the suitcase through the window. Something else happened, and if he failed in getting her outside the house, it might explain why he then took her over here to the storage room, right? From over there, back over here to the storage room, where she was tortured, assaulted, and next to her body, she was tortured, and why he then took her over here to the storage room, right? The child in a suitcase, couldn't get the suitcase through the window. Something else happened, and if he failed in getting her outside the house, it might explain why he then took her.
Are you telling me that window is so small that you can't get a 6-year-old in that suitcase to fit her outside of that window? Just a small 6-year-old. then how did an adult come through there easily? If that suitcase is so big, because I'm telling you right now, that suitcase ain't that big that it couldn't fit through no window. And if that's the case, I'm not sure that window is that big after all.
Her shirt, on her wrist ligatures, in her back.
Yeah. Because you would, as an adult, you would have to go through sideways. You have to go through sideways. The suitcase, in terms of height, may not go because you have this sort of like upper awning thing. Maybe. Possibly turn it sideways. But I don't know if JonBenét would fit in that suitcase anyway. Maybe she would if you, whatever. But at that point, she would have to be unalived for her to go. You know, you hit her with a stun gun. She had to be knocked out for her to go. She has to be either unalived or knocked out for her to go in that suitcase quietly to where you can maneuver her and she doesn't put up a fight. First of all. Second of all, why would anybody put her in the suitcase when she wouldn't be able to breathe in that suitcase? So you're already unaliving. If she's not yet dead, then you're unaliving her there because there's no oxygen that she can get in that suitcase. And if she's been stunned, why not just put her out on the ground? Why do you need a suitcase? It's weird.
Yeah, and in the body bag. So that led him to believe that JonBenét had been put in that suitcase possibly to get her out of that window, and that's how they were going to do it.
Nah,
that suitcase wouldn't fit through.
Nah, that was probably JonBenét's suitcase for. That was probably, those suitcases are probably down there for JonBenét's her pageant shows, and so they put those down there, and so JonBenét's stuff is in there for her pageant show. That's probably what that is. That's her suitcases for that stuff, and so when they don't need it, they put it down there.
Window, which is intriguing because it's possible the kidnapper that initially started as a kidnapping was trying to put the child in a suitcase, couldn't get the suitcase through the window. Something else happened, and if he failed in getting her outside the house, it might explain why he then took her over here to the storage room, right from over there back over here to the storage room, where she was tortured, assaulted, and next to her body, authorities found a print from a high-tech branded boot right there. John, have authorities ever been able to determine who owned these boots?
No, they have not. And that was really important for Lou because none of the family had high-tech boots. So he believed that it's possible the suspect left that footprint next to the body.
Well, number one, two things. You wouldn't find the boot because the family had all night to stage the crime scene and get rid of the boot. That's number one. Number two, you're talking about, this is a lot. This is a lot going on. Like we said, this person is in the house just perusing around and just finds a notepad, say, I want to write a 3-page note. Let's do that. You know what? I think I want to shine a flashlight around the kitchen. Who cares if anybody catches me? Oh, but you know what? I bring her downstairs and I just hit her with a stun gun. Why? Well, just for the fun of it. And if she screams, somebody heard, she screams and she's like, you know what? Oh man, you got me. You know what? Instead of me dropping her and running, you know what? I'm going to run over here, put her in a room, assault her, take time to assault her, and then leave. What are you talking about? I'm going to stop the video right there and we're going to jump on until the next thing. But it makes less sense as you go. But until next time, take it easy.